It's gonna be alright.
Welcome to another Johnversation. I am here at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention in Orlando, Florida, and I am delighted to be joined by KT Griffith, who has written a book called Shhh, Mental Illness, the Silent Disease. And wow, there has never been a time, I believe, that mental illness hasn't been so prevalent in our society. It's just facing every person. And in your situation, you had that issue coming up with your family a lot, your daughter specifically.
Right.
I know that's kind of what led you to write this book, but tell me about the structure, how God led you to do this.
Well,
tell me about that.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
First of all, I didn't know I was writing a book. My daughter was lost on a very big city street, didn't know where she was, so my heart was very heavy. I'd wake up every day and God would give me something new to write. And it's really an idea of telling a parent what would you do in this situation? How would you think? I mean, so it's not all about her. There's a lot of wisdom, a lot of scriptures, different things in here that give a pointed answer to people that are searching.
And before I get too much further, I do want to point out that the reason that we're not seeing KT's face is because she's trying to protect the anonymity of her daughter and the struggles that she has gone through. So we're respecting that this morning, and I hope you will too. What have been some of the biggest struggles that you and your husband have faced through this whole thing?
There have been many, many, many. My mind goes all over the place when you ask me that question because it's hard to pinpoint just one. There's been so many. But let's just start way back in the beginning, because that's where parents need to start, is when their children are little. When they're little, I just advise, listen to your child. You know, we had an incident where my daughter wouldn't want to go to school. She'd wake up every morning with stomach ache and the whole thing. So I took her to the doctor, lactose intolerance, right? But no, it wasn't. It was being bullied. Every day, a little girl would greet her in the morning saying, "You're ugly and you're going to hell." Well, that was enough to keep my daughter home and sick in the mornings. And she would come in after that little girl was already dismissed to go to class. So even at a small age, they learn coping skills. They learn how to do that. And I learned a lesson because I went right back in and talked to the principal and told her what had happened all year long. But I didn't know it until the very last day when we were pulling out of the parking lot did she feel comfortable in telling me her secret. Wow. So what I'm saying is get an idea of talk to your daughter, talk to your son, find out what's really bothering them. And if you can uncover, then you have a relationship because they're trusting you with the truth.
KT, why do you think, and this may just be a guess because you have your experience, but I know that you've done plenty of research in the process of trying to help your daughter. Why do you think that this issue has become so prevalent, especially among the younger generation right now?
Well, we serve a God, and Satan is alive in action in this world, and this is his territory for now. And he's going to destroy the family. It's really after the family. Yeah. It's after trying to break up the husband and the wife. And believe me, there's a lot of divorce in situations when you have mental illness in the family. Not in my case. We're good. But things happen.
Yeah, it's tough. So as you went, through the years trying to help your daughter find some help, get some solutions, what were some of those stops along the way? It sounded just in our talk before we started, you've been through a lot of interventions.
We've actually been through probably 12 treatment programs. Her number one thing was anxiety and depression, and ADHD, which that was the young years of that. And then from that, then people added different diagnoses with like borderline personality, multiple personality. I mean, just several things in there that we've, the bipolar stuff. Everybody wanted to put their stamp of approval on who she was. And it just became a lot, but
that's okay. That's all right. I love that because this book is not written just to get words on paper. This is your heart.
Yes.
And you've poured into this book. And now I do want to mention, you mentioned ADHD, and the reason I bring it up, my wife suffers with severe ADHD. She was not diagnosed, and she has just through her own research, she hits every single mark, and it's debilitating. It really is.
I actually use that word, debilitating, because anxiety and depression, they go together. And ADHD, one of the final doctors that my daughter did go to said, this is severe ADHD. And people don't put that category with severe. They think, oh, it's just ADHD.
It's
but
just,
it's
they
not.
just can't focus, or they just bounce
Right.
around a little bit.
But it's not like that. It can be severe. It can be the umbrella for everything that you're doing. So, yeah.
Well, let's talk for a second about medicine. In the Christian community, it's hard to believe in 2023 there are still people that think, oh, just pray it away, you know?
No, I don't think you can in some situations. You have to go to meds. And meds don't have to be a lifetime. They can be a portion of your lifetime. But when you need them, you need them. It stabilizes you. It puts you a ground to touch your feet to.
Say that again. That's a beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah, it gives you a ground to touch your feet. Because if not, you just keep falling. And you go past that mark, and then you end up with suicidal thoughts. Things lead to other things. So it's important that the parents give their help and get them the medicine, take them to the ER, take them to a counselor, do the things that you have to do to help your child.
Yeah, and there's also not just should I or should I not take medicine. There's this stigma. Right. Somebody has cancer, nobody blames them for getting treatment. They'll run and take care of it. Somebody has diabetes. I have diabetes, right? I take medicine. You can't see, and I probably wouldn't had I not had so many donuts along the way, but I have that issue, and nobody faults me for that. But there's this stigma with mental health. Oh, you're on one of those. Everybody's taking a crazy pill.
Fix it, right?
Yeah.
Just fix it. You can fix it.
Right.
That's the answer. I'm a very long thinker, a long program person, and so I take on a lot and without reacting. My husband's like, okay, we got to fix this, And
well, that's typical man, by the way.
Absolutely, it is. So it's a long journey.
Yeah.
It's a very long journey, and it's not a quick fix.
Yeah. So the book is written. I just, it's a small looking kind of book, and when I got to the table of contents, I was surprised that there are like dozens of topics that's covered here. So how did you structure the book? It seems like a I'm struggling with blank, and I'll turn to that page. Is that kind of how it works?
Well, I'm so glad I had a publisher that actually organized it for me, and they did do that. It's great. To me, it's like a pickup book at an airport where you can just read a little bit. I've had different reactions. I've had people that have struggled with mental illness, and their reaction is, man, I couldn't read straight through it because it touched me so much. I could relate so much.
Yeah.
Then I've had people that didn't know anything about mental illness, and they're like, wow, now I know a lot about mental illness that gives me an understanding for others. So it really touches both directions.
Well, in your journey, you've got a lot of takeaways, but is there a particular thing that you've clung on to? You mentioned a Bible verse that was special to you. What is that Bible verse?
Well, this Bible verse is interesting because I never know it unless I need it. It's like I wake up, I'll be in the shower, whatever, and I'm having a heavy day, and this verse comes to me. So let me read it for you.
All right. So just in fairness, I pulled this on her. She actually said, I can't ever memorize this verse. I'm going to memorize it. I'm going to pull it up so I'm ready. So here we are.
Yeah. It's hear my cry, O God, attend unto my prayer. From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy. And for me, when I'm in that battle, I know that there's an enemy, and I know that God is the one to fight that battle. And that's hard for people. So, if you don't know the Lord, I advise that you get to know him because he knows you. You just have to reach out. He already knows you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, just for a moment, as much as you're able to, tell us a little bit about your daughter's journey and how, I assume she grew up in church and she had the whole Sunday school and everything, and things are a struggle.
Yes, she has. She's grown up in a family where a church is a big part of our lives. Not only church, but the Lord.
Yeah,
the Lord.
Course.
And I grew up with a faith-built family where I would hear stories of miracles that have happened. Just all kinds of miracles that have happened in my family. So my faith has been built all along. So for her, she accepted the Lord when she was 11. I remember the day, she told me she was a sinner And I said, well, what does that mean to you? And I wanted to see that she knew.
Sure. Yeah.
And she knew. She knew exactly what she was asking me. And she wanted me to pray with her to accept Jesus in her heart. And we did. And her tears were running down her face and everything. So she's 11 years old. So how does it get to this? You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. But this journey has been long. There's been, I think some of the first things that happened were cutting. The cutting was discovered, and Band-Aids were found, and different things like that. Bullying. You know, our kids are the sensitive ones. They're the ones that are picked out in a crowd.
Yeah.
They're the ones that, you know, are made fun of. They're the ones that are also the life of the party. Everybody wants to be around them for a short time. You know, I mean, so it goes all directions. But eventually they end up with no friends, and that ends up sad. So the journey of depression, things happen. There was some things that happened in the childhood that were playing with some boys, and things happened there. You know, I never uncovered all of that. But those start the downward spirals, because those impact the brain, they impact the heart. And then other people think she's prey, and then things escalate to that. And then it ends up, in the end of her journey, she's actually ended up being trafficked. We've been through a lot. She's had guns held to her head. She's a survivor. And I'm so thankful she does know the Lord, because in some way I know he has his hand on her.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm very thankful.
Well, you know, KT, this not only impacts you emotionally and socially, it impacts you spiritually. Mm-hmm. Because, and I speak as one that my wife has struggled with so many of these things, that, you know, it's like, how can God say that he loves me and I still feel this way about everything? I mean, I'm sure you've heard that in your own home, you know, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Or another way of looking at it is, God really can't think much of me because clearly nobody else does. You know, that kind of an idea.
I hear that. I don't live that.
Yeah. And I mean from the perspective of your daughter.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, she wants things to change. She's got a great personality and a really hard personality at the same time, because her multiple personalities have taken her to different levels and different personalities. Not schizophrenic, it's different. Multiple personalities are altars that are built to protect the hurt that is inside, and so you become a different person. Like, so yes, she doesn't want to be this person, but she doesn't know how to get out of it. And she'll come, you know, we can do 100 days good. You know, 100 days, I'm going to be good. And she can get through those 100 days. But as soon as that 100 days is over, that temptation is right there to grab her and take her back. And I just think that Satan, you know, she had a dream that there was two doors. One was glowing light out of it, and the other one was heavy dark coming out of it. And she went to reach for the handle of the one on the right, and the dark came and pulled her over to the other side. And then the light came and pulled her back. So it was this big tug of war. And it's like, that was her dream. And she shared it with me. Wow. So that's her life, and that's how she feels. And she's trapped. And I would hope that truth is exposed, even though she knows truth. And that makes it harder, you know, because she does know the truth. And I just pray that one day she's released from those pulls.
Of course. And this is written from a mother's heart, from a mother's perspective, because obviously our kids are struggling, but there are people, adults, all ages, that are struggling with this kind of thing, and we just don't talk about it very much.
Right.
You're trying to protect your daughter, so we're being anonymous in a way, but I'm sure that people can connect with you somehow. Is there...
Right. On the book... you know, the title is Shhh, Mental Illness, the Silent Disease.
And I'll show that to camera. Go ahead.
Yes. And then if you go there to the website, which is ktgriffiths.com, and it has an S on Griffiths, then you can go and you can do info@ktgriffiths. And it'll tell you how to get to me there. You can just do info@kt. And I think it's on the business card, too.
Sure. Okay. And so I assume this is, this is an opportunity for you to try to redeem the days that have been difficult.
Right.
So,
yeah. And our daughter still struggles.
Sure.
So our journey's not done. But she let me do this book. She's actually proud of me for writing this book. And I thank her for that. And so we've moved past that. She's read the stories, and she's okay with this part of her journey exposed. Not the rest of it.
Right,
yes,
right.
We're good.
Understand. Well, KT, thank you so much for being with us today. This book, I think, is so important, and it's so attainable. You know, you just open it, you find something that grabs your attention, you read it, and you probably don't put it down after that. But so folks can get this on Amazon. It's available all over the place, and info at KT Griffiths. That's THS at the end, .com. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me today.
All right.
It's gonna be alright.
And just remember, I almost forgot my close there. Just remember, even if you're struggling with mental illness, through the Lord, it's going to be all right.